And we're live. Alive with Joey, episode 10 already with my dear friend Jilian Hardwick. Hi, Jilian.
What's up?
It's funny. This has been kind of a long time coming, but it totally made sense yesterday when we chatted on why the universe kind of delayed things for us. But first, let's just start by tell me a little bit about yourself. Who is Jilian Hardwick?
Yeah. So as far as what I do and how I kind of stumbled into you, I am a Pilates instructor, a personal trainer. I've been doing this for 10 years. I help people on their journey, and I'm usually helping people in transition. So they're coming out of physical therapy, off injuries, things like that, and they're wanting to get started in their program, but there's kind of this fear. Most of them are like lifelong athletes who are like, I always used to be super active, but I had X, Y, and Z, or I had kids, or, pandemic, and I took 2 years off, and now I'm ready to start. And so I'm kind of that stepping stone for a lot of people who are, re-entering that fitness world. So that's what I do,
So, and you're an entrepreneur too. Like, you own a business, you own a pretty big business. Tell us a little bit about your brand, your business that you run.
Yeah. So there's always I feel like the pre-pandemic is going to be a new thing. It's like before Christ, it's going to be like pre-pandemic. It's going to be like a reference where it's like, well, before, but we used to teach 55 classes a week at 16 locations in Orange County. And I had, 11 employees. So we were entirely in person, going in and out of retirement homes, working with community centers, and just really, really big active program that was growing. And then, of course, we were one of the first to close down because we are working with cities, right? And so as soon as I remember I got one of the first calls that my first center was going to close, it was just like, I called my parents and I was like, who do I call? Something big's going to happen. And I just, started crying, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've worked for 8 years to build this company, and now I'm closed overnight, And then when things happened, it was actually, looking back in hindsight, I did it in about a week. We flipped online and I started running donation-based classes. I was like, look, I'm here for you guys. You need this now more than ever.
Right.
Part of it was like, I don't really know what I'm doing on Zoom. I don't know how to use this. So there could be some glitches. I didn't say that, but I was like,
sure,
if you're still employed, we're accepting donations. And we ran a program. I paid my employees for 3.5 months on donation-based program. It was incredible. So that was
and that's
awesome.
And that's kind of when we connected. I remember our first call was right around when you just kind of started rolling online. I think things were rolling pretty good for you, but that's just I almost made a video about this the other day. It's like one of the biggest superpowers you can develop is how to pivot, right? In a moment of what seems to be crisis. Like, you've worked 8 years building this company to the point where it's at, and then, like a lot of people during this last few years, you get smashed in the face, and what do you have? You have no choice. You either pivot and make a different move, or you kind of just surrender to it and go, oh well, I guess there it goes. So what was your mindset? Like, did you have that? Like, you obviously call your parents, and you're like, what was that moment? Was there a day of like, what's happening to me? What do I do?
It was the moment. Yeah. So it was before everything was officially closed, but because, we're, a lot of my work is with cities and contracts with, community centers and larger entities, right?
Yeah.
Is the first sign of that first center. Remember, we were going in and out of 16 locations. So the very first hint of one center closing was, oh my gosh, this is going to happen. Complete breakdown. I'm really stubborn, and I like to figure things out. And so going on unemployment, that wasn't even a thought that crossed my mind. I was like, I'm going to figure this out. We're going to figure this out. I basically locked myself in my house for 20 days, worked, 10 to 12 to 15 hours a day, figuring it out, and did, the initial first few classes in the donation program. I was like, I have to learn how to do this so I can teach my employees. And then I set up a meeting with any of my employees who wanted to be there. And I was like, if you want to be part of this, here's what we're doing. I was simultaneously building the airplane while it was flying. It's not like I built it and then we're like, oh, we don't know if it's going to work. This thing was in the air. I had passengers, I had a staff, I had a crew, and I was like, I don't know what is happening, but we're going,
I love that. So tell me a little bit about your breakdown. Like, you said breakdown. Was that
Well, it was like hysterically crying to my parents, you know, going, oh my God, oh my God. And they're like, it's okay. We'll figure it out. And like, you'll be okay. We're here for you. We can support you financially, emotionally, whatever. And I was like, no. That's not the point of this breakdown. This breakdown is just, I was like, I just need to. And I remember at one point I told my dad, I was like, Dad, I love you. But I was like, I know things are going to be okay. But in this moment, I just need you to say, this sucks. This sucks. Just sit in this moment with me, Dad. I know it's really hard because he's like such a positive, you know, like really like, it's okay. We'll figure it out. You know, and I'm like, no, this is horrible. I'm like hysterically crying, can't breathe. I didn't think I was going to break down. You know, I don't know if this has happened with you. And women talk more than men. We call our friends crying. That's normal, right? I didn't think that was going to happen. I just pick up the phone to call and just say, you know, and just, full breakdown. So,
And then right from there, you're like, okay, now we move forward, and you started working in your bedroom.
Well, fortunately, I had my own space. I had just moved into my own space maybe 6 months prior to. And this is really, you know, part of my spiritual journey is all the pieces that fell into place. I got into my place. I got my second bedroom for my office. I had predetermined a blank wall that I was like, no photos go on that wall because I'm going to shoot videos there. Lo and behold, 2+ years later, I still teach classes every day with that blank wall in that exact spot in my house. So there was a lot of things that really just kind of lined up for me. In my previous scenario, I don't think I would have been able to do what I did had I had, you know, my roommates and been living in the situation I was in, you know, previously. So
I was having a conversation with a friend today too on how many of those pieces fall into place at the perfect time, not even knowing why, and how it all just comes full circle at the end. Like, not everybody's having the positive things right now. I know some of us might be in the thick of things, but how many times I've like lost my mind in a meltdown or whatever, and then, you know, take my breath, get back to center, and then the next day I realize, oh, that happened because of this and that and this, and then just boom, everything's on your lap. You're going, oh, why the hell did I
like to know how you get that to happen in a day? Because usually it takes me 6 months to look back and be like, oh my God, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. You know, well, for 3, 4, 5 months, I'm like, this is terrible. What's happening?
So you went, how long has it been since you've been going online now?
Since March 16th, 2020.
2020. And that turned out to be bigger than you ever expected.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, you know, it kind of forced a lot of people to try something they would have never tried, right? Working out online, being active. And we've just been banking this library because my team is, you know, I couldn't physically teach everything every day, right? So I have a team and we're in, you know, our membership group. My dad helps download videos and he was like, we have probably 22 to 2,600 on-demand videos that are just in there. And so we're just constantly building content and, you know, there's definitely been some hurdles and they continue to happen along the way, right? As soon as things got ready to open, I was like, oh my gosh, everything I just worked for the last year is going to explode, you know? And a few people went back in person. And then a lot of people, what they realized was it's really convenient to roll out of bed in the morning in my pajamas and get a quick workout in, you know? It's really nice that I don't have to spend an extra hour and a half driving. Now, I'm an extrovert. I love people and nothing will ever replace that in-person type of thing. But as an instructor, I'm not driving 1,000 miles a month anymore. I was driving 1,000 miles a month before this. And that time for me is so valuable. You know, I can go to the beach, decompress, watch the sunset, and then come back home and work for another 2 hours, you know? And it's like, I've built the life that I've always dreamed of. And it took falling upside down on my face to really kind of stop and do it, you know?
That's the stuff that literally fires me up more than anything, is hearing that right there. It's like, I've built everything I've like dreamt of, wanted to manifest. It's here now. But that's the thing about this whole journey, spiritual or whatever it is we never know the details on how it's going to fall into place. And like you said, like, you're going to get punched and hit over the head and you're going to fall in a ditch and you're going to do all these things, but it's, you know, you just keep going. Tell me about what lights you up. Like, why do you do what you do? Like, what's the best part about, you know, what you bring to other people?
So I love the community sense of that. And I like that, something that also kind of came out with the online stuff is there's like really professional videos, right? Where you have perfect backdrops, you have perfect lighting, you have perfect instructions, and very just like as if they're reading a script. Right. I'm kind of a weirdo. So it's like, I've had examples of, I'm in a mat, teaching a Pilates mat class, and a daddy long legs like this big goes like cruising by on the wall. And there's two options, professional studio quality Jill would just ignore it and kind of like be awkward. Right. Real life authentic Jill is like, hey guys, keep doing those bridges. I've got to take this spider real quick, spend the 5 seconds. And what I found is that people, and people in our community and just members, they like that it's real. They're getting a real person. We're getting real interaction, and they're learning and they're getting stronger. I had a client who said the other day, she's like, I didn't realize I could get this in shape at home. Like, I thought I had to be going somewhere. And she's a mom. She has 2 kids, and my favorite question to ask people, or my clients specifically, is why do you keep coming back? It's like, why do you keep coming back? And the answers that I get every time I ask this question are things I never thought of. I want to be an example for my kids. My kids see me working out. My daughter's now in a running club. They see me being healthy. They want this. I want my daughters to know, I get goosebumps as I say this, that they can be strong. I want them to know as women, they can be strong. And it's just like, oh, these things. And it's like, this is why I do this. Anybody can just work out, but we're building, healthy lifestyles. We're working through the ups and the downs. I've had clients in the last 2 years go through cancer and chemos and treatments and still show up, and because they want to, and it feels good. I've seen losses. I've seen, we had a baby or not a bridal shower in my class, there's an 80-year-old one man and this 30-year-old who's getting ready to get married. And we had this bridal shower, and this 81, he's never been to a bridal shower in his life. And homeboy's got like toilet paper for his veil. He's got a like full display sign in the back that's like, and just to create that community is definitely something that really just gets me going, is we are not just your instructor. Like, we're there. If something's going on, I'm at your house dropping something at your door,
Do you find you have a lot of people who've never really gotten into the gym thing, or even maybe ever worked out, and like find this, what you provide? And like, cause I know when I first found the gym, like for me, I love lifting heavy things. I love lifting weights.
Well, you got more testosterone then.
Yeah. But no, and it's not comparing the two. It's just knowing what that did for my mental health, especially like in my early 20s. Like, I was really struggling. That was the first thing I found that really brought me peace, was the gym and any exercise. Like, I've always been an athlete and all these things, but like, that must be pretty cool to see those people who are new to this, or maybe haven't been been working out for many years, finding that fire again, and then seeing what it does, how it changes their life, really.
Yeah. So I was writing notes because I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was like, I can't forget this.
Oh, you're kind.
So this is a really, really, really important thing. So in my opinion, exercise, physical movement, mindful movement, whatever you want to call it, is the most underutilized and underprescribed antidepressant on the market. And I will take that anywhere we go. And, there was a study that popped up just yesterday. A doctor was talking about it on their actual podcast, but they were saying, more mild to moderate, cases of depression can be treated, and there can be significant shifts with both eating healthy and clean foods and moving your body. And so that's actually what that's really what got me going with the initial program being a donation-based program anyways, because everybody's at home now overnight. And I was like, I don't even care about the money. I mean, I'd like to pay my employees and like pay my bills, but that was the least of my worries. I was like, you guys need to move. So if you can be here, be here. I got you. And I showed up, we showed up every day and still showing up 2 years later, Yeah,
that's huge. I mean, to this day, the gym, it's anything. If it's getting my TRX set up when I was in Costa Rica, that was enough. I had a 45-pound dumbbells, my TRX, and some bands, and I made that shit work. And one of the coolest parts, like you said, it's about leading by example. I got my 5-year-old doing push-ups beside me. I'm not asking her to do it. She's coming in, she's doing Dad, what are these called? She saw a guy doing burpees on the beach. So she's doing burpees. And I'm just like, this is so cool. And then you see her, she's like, she's flexing but she loves it. And my son too, like, he's just, it's just the coolest thing. And just by doing it, I'm not asking my kids to do that, but they can see it. They're getting into it. And just by me leading by example, I know that they're going to kind of go down that same road. And that is one of the coolest things about it.
That's been awesome. And the other thing too, you talk about the gym, it's nice because people feel like they have a safe place now, because there's a lot of, we all have our own insecurities. We all have them, right? And
the gym's
it's
a tough
really
place.
It's a hard place to be. And so I have, clients who are like, man, this last couple of years was stressful, as it was for everyone. And they're noticing some changes in their body that they're not comfortable with. And so now it's like, hey, not only do we have classes that aren't like, influencer, crazy, whatever. Right. It's like we have classes for everyday people who are coming off of something. And so it's like, okay, they can just turn their cameras off. They can take it when they want. It's actually really great for introverts too, because they don't have to engage at all. They can just show up to the class and I don't even have to know they're there. And we have a lot of clients who just like to do it on their own. And then there's some, right, that need the accountability and want to be live and want to have their videos on and want to interact. So it's really been interesting to watch how that's unfolded for a lot of people.
It's pretty amazing when you get to do something as a career or, for a job or whatever you want to call it, where you get to see people get better, like I get it. Like, this is like, it's everything to me. It's the dream. You get to help, because that's who we are. I think we all want to help people in the end, deep down, but to be able to do it as a profession, that's special. And I think everybody has that opportunity to do that. Like, did you, like, when you bought the company, like, how big of a leap was that? How scary was that when you kind of got into this?
Well, so I'll give you like a little backstory on how I got into it. I was going to my undergraduate with the intention of applying to grad schools for physical therapy. That was just kind of always my plan. And then I found out that I had fractured my back. So L4, L5 sacrum, back injury. Like, I'm dancing in college. And I'm like, I'm in so much pain. And as athletes, like, you're used to just push through it. It's cool. You get through it. But something was just wrong. And so after I figured that all out, I actually took the semester off from taking dance classes, and I did Pilates Monday through Friday for an entire semester. That's 3 months of Pilates every day. And I felt like that was what healed my back. So Unreal. I was like, I got to get certified in this. I have to get certified in this, because it's going to help me with my patients in grad school. I didn't think I was going to be, a Pilates instructor. And then there was an opportunity, right place, right time. Someone came up to me and said, hey, this woman's looking for an instructor, in Huntington Beach at the rec centers. I grew up in Huntington Beach in Southern California. If you guys don't know where that is. I had a rec center about a mile from my parents' house. Didn't even know it existed. It was like, I was like, what's a rec center? And the woman who introduced me to this other woman who was looking just for an instructor at the time was like, she's like, yeah, I'm not certified yet. So she's like, she needs someone. So the only reason I'm there is because I have my certification before she does. And then a couple months in, the previous owner is like, hey, I'm moving. My husband's in the FBI. I think this business deserves someone who's around. Do you want to buy this business? And I'm going, I never have taken a business class in my entire life. Right. Yeah. But I dilly-dallied in college, and it took me 6 years to get my undergrad. And quite frankly, I was tired of going to school. Right. It's like, so I went to my parents and was like, hey, I need to take out a loan, but all I have is this Toyota Tacoma that's 13 years old. Right. I'm going to buy a business. And they're like, what's the plan? And I just tried to come up with the best thing I could. And whatever the tiny amount of like, we think you can do it, that was there. They're like, all right, we'll help you co-sign. I love it. And here we go. And then,
How scary was it?
So
or were you just all in?
Oh, I was all in because I had nothing else. I had nothing but time. And at the time, just to put it in perspective, the business had like 5 or 6 classes a week. It was this opportunity to build these relationships with the city and these contracts that they had that I was like, wow, this is what I want. And so I put everything I had into it. And like I said, before we swapped online. I mean, we were 55 classes a week at 16 locations. We were pumping out a lot, you know, and that excluded all of our private lessons and private training and stuff. So.
Okay. I want to know your opinion on this, because this is something I talk about. We've chatted about this, like those opportunities that knock, you know, those doorbells, and like, what's your advice on when those things happen? Like when those opportunities come, because not everybody's going to jump in. Not everybody gets that. Like, I'm all in, I got nothing. But what would you say to people when they want to maybe start a business or anything else? Do you have something from your experience that?
Well, yeah, definitely. The first question to ask yourself is, does this get me excited? And if your first answer is like, heck yes, I'm in, this sounds great, before you do the, oh my God, how am I going to make this happen? Then yes, absolutely yes. Does it get you pumped up? Does it get you excited? Does your vibration raise?
Yes.
If it does, you got to follow that. You got to follow that. You know, the rest can be figured out. Can be figured out. So
so that's a good one, because I think it's beautiful to go, okay, this fires me up. This is exactly where I think I want to go, or I feel I want to go. And then you take that step, and a lot of people get stuck. And I think we've all been there. It's like, oh, that's a big mountain of things to figure out and how this is going to happen. And I think a lot of people retreat in those moments, go, holy shit, Everest is taller than I thought. But I always like to use this analogy. You got to get to base camp, right? So like, what did you do to get everything, not get overwhelmed with what you were trying to do?
So I think part of it also too is like, there's kind of, multifaceted, of course. But I am very much a self-researcher. So before I bought the business, I actually wrote my own contract. I did all the research. I bought the books. I wrote my contract. And then I called an attorney friend that I used to work with and said, hey, can you look this over? I don't have a lot of money, but I'll pay you. Just tell me what it is and I'll figure out how to get you the money. You know, and she looked over my contract and that. So I've definitely always had that entrepreneurial mindset. And I think that's also something too that's important for people who are considering going into business. Because quite frankly, it's not for everybody. You know, from the outside in, a lot of people are like, oh, it's great. You get to make your own hours. They don't realize that we don't get paid vacations. We lose money when we go on vacation, you know? There's no such thing as 9 to 5. Yeah, you can create boundaries as you're more established as a company.
Sure.
But for some people, they are going to be more comfortable, you know, and I don't want to discourage anybody, but I think it's also important to take a good hard look at, are you willing to put in the work that's required? Are you like, okay, you know, losing whatever it is, you're going to fail. You're going to hit the floor 500 times before you find the right thing or product or service or this or that. And it's kind of just asking yourself those honest questions. But I like what you said about base camp. It's just take it one step at a time. And my best advice with kind of as you're going through those steps is hire people, professionals, like legal people, set up that, know that it's going to cost some money, right? And also talk to other business owners, because that was actually what really got me going, right? Is your network. Yeah. Like, you know this, anybody who owns a business, guess what? You can't get us to stop talking about business. I just want to tell you all my ideas, and I know nothing about what you're doing, but I want to give you all this free advice.
Right. Well, and I was talking to my brother, he's getting into real estate investing, and he's talking about maybe doing some flips and maybe doing this and maybe some Airbnbs. And he's kind of all over. I'm like, look, one thing you got to do, find who's the best in your area, find who knows the laws in our area. You can't go, sign up for a course from a guy in Arizona and you're in Canada and the rules aren't the same. You need to find a guy who's doing what you want to do in your area, find out, call him, email him, ask him, are you willing to help me? Because I'm going to tell you one thing. There's one thing I know about really good entrepreneurs or people who are successful is a lot of them understand that by giving, they get more. Like it's not necessarily a selfish thing.
If I go up, you go up.
Yeah. It's like that gives me goosebumps. Like that's why I love like people DM me and want to know how did you get started in, your business, or how did you leave your job to do this, take that leap? I love talking about that. I love trying to get people fired up to take the next step for themselves. But you got to reach out. The biggest thing I think people not mess up on, maybe they miss an opportunity, is just ask. Ask the flipping question. Can you help me? No. Okay. Next guy. Yes. And it's like that guy might have 25 years of experience, might give you 5 tips that 5 things you can avoid this time because of what he learned that can save you make you millions of dollars or save you this like 2 years of headaches. You got to ask, and you got to find the right people that resonate with you too. Right. Yep. It's like, it's like my work. I tell people all the time, I might not be your cup of tea for doing this deeper inner work, but if you feel my energy, this is going to bring you to another level. Same thing with anything like that, I think. So, man, I love people like that, because you can tell it's like, yeah, I'll help you. If you have the fire and you have the energy to want to learn, a lot of these people are waiting for people to ask them to learn about what they've done.
Yes. And to help and it's, I attribute actually a lot of my success to the professional network of business owners that I work with,
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of networking with a lot of different business owners, and I had 6 people in my personal cell phones that I could call when I had to transition my business overnight. And we can call it a pivot if we want. Now I look back and I'm like, well, I really started a new business from scratch. I just had a whole, client Rolodex of people who were willing to give it a shot, right. But I was able to call people and professionals and say, how do we do this? How do we help? So definitely leaning into other business owners, because being a business owner, I don't know if you experience this, Joey, it's really lonely sometimes. It's really lonely because, people have bosses, people are in management, people are in these things, and I mean this in the most respectful way, and I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody, but I really feel like sometimes nobody really knows what it's like unless you're also in it too.
100. Yeah.
And it can be very, not only lonely, but it can just be overwhelming sometimes. So developing a network of people who own their own businesses or, run businesses at that higher tier, it's really, really, really important.
Yeah, it's there's days where I sit with my head in my hands, and you know what, like I get to do this for a living, but it comes with a lot of challenges, and staying up to date with content and being, getting yourself out there, because you're your own, we're both the same. We have to advertise, we have to be out there, we have to show people what we do, we have to talk about ourselves, which is not easy for me. And some of you know this, like I'll lead a free meditation on Sunday, and then at the end of the show, I have to talk about what I offer, and I still have trouble with that. Those things that I'm getting better and better at. But there's been times where things are harder, and it's like, wow, I wish I could just go on that 10-day, stretch of days off and literally not have to worry about anything, because my job is just waiting for me when I come back on shift or on. There's some it's nice sometimes, but once you get a taste of your path, your mission, and how you can affect other people and what that means to others, and how the ripple effect, you can't, I don't know. I could never, ever.
I could never go back. No, I could never, ever. And it's like, it's a double-edged sword, because here's the deal. There's no rule book for being a business owner. Like, there's laws and whatever, but there is no rule book of do this. Hey, Joe, you're going to post on TikTok and blow up. And now all of a sudden this is your client funnel. Oh, by the way, tomorrow TikTok's going to shut you down. So good luck. We got to find a new way to get this going, right? It's like, there's no rule book. There is no order. So it's a double-edged sword, because it's great. There's so much freedom, because it does allow creativity. I think that's another thing for a lot of business owners. They're very creative people, right? You always have ideas. You always have a lot of things. But then at the same time, like we said, there's no rule book. So what do you do when the world closes down and you have to make money to put food on the table? Like, there's no rule book for any of this. So
no, and you nailed it too. I think what you're saying about the spider on the wall. I think, well, it's that authenticity, right? This is what it really is, because I think now more than ever, people are just sick of the smoke and mirrors, scripted BS, and they just want you to be yourself. And I know with my business, and I'm sure it's been the same with you, is I naturally attracted the people that will get the most out of this work with me. I naturally attract my soul family, and, I was going to say you did that by being authentic, though, because that's how I, found and connected to you. And, if we can segue, I'll tell you that was through TikTok. That was through meditation. That was through that. And here's the thing. I remember, Joey, this moment. I had no idea who this guy was. Found him. Hey, we're going to do meditation. Big spiritual thing. I'm in the very early stages of like this wild spiritual awakening that I'm about to go through. And I'm like,
okay, cool. So I do the meditation. And I came out of that meditation that day. It was what, December? I never even get the day right. That's like how, you know.
Oh, was it the December 21st one where we had a few?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So we had, tons of people, and, and then I kind of flipped back to this other woman for a second, but I was like, there's something about this guy, and you cried in the meditation. And I remember this. And I was like, this guy, I don't know if it's like, at the time I'm like, I don't know if this guy's just ballsy. I don't know if he's like being authentic. I don't know what it was, but there was something that I was like, but I could feel in the meditation how real you were. And that's what it was. I was like, that's the kind of people I want to be around,
That was one of the biggest manifestations that I've ever experienced without knowing that I've even knew, like I never visualized that really happening. But in the moment when I think we had 3,000 people on that one, or 3,500 people at that time on that day. And I couldn't believe it. I was sitting there and I was like, wow, we got a lot of people here. Well, I'm going to lead a meditation. And I went into this and I remember feeling the energy of the collective of everyone together. And I started shaking. I had tears down my face. Like it was like, that was a moment I'll never, ever, ever, ever forget. Like, I've had bigger ones. This last December, I've had more people, but that first one that you're talking about was, I've never,
I was there, that energy. Yeah. The energy, everything, you can't describe it unless you're there. And even being on the receiving end of the meditation and just partaking and being there, I was like, wow, Yeah,
that was wild. It's a big moment in my career. And as it really allowed myself to be even more out there with who I really am, because I came from a background of law enforcement. Like I was in corrections for 10 years. And I talk about this quite often, is like, you got your group of people who know you as this guy, this role that you play, this version of the human. And inside, I'm developing my meditation and my inner vision and my connection with source, or God, if you want to call it. And all these things I'm not really talking about. And I'm starting to do this work. Now I'm on TikTok. I'm like, oh, I'm on social media now. People are going to see me. Oh shit. Like, but that gave me an opportunity to go, no, this is an opportunity for you to really be who you want to be, and just fucking own it. And that was, I think, a reward for that. It was like, no, people are here to see you for who you are and what you bring, your energy, real you. So I think that's a huge thing for everyone. Like, you're going to have these opportunities. Don't let fear win, or the ego get in the way, because you get rewarded, and you get rewarded massively.
Yeah. I literally just reposted a video about that today. I was like, if you're waiting for the perfect time, you're going to wait for the rest of your life. Like you're literally going to be waiting,
Honestly, how many times have we all, like anybody in here and watching this, like, oh, you know what? When I get one more course, when I get certified in this last thing, when I get another 1,000 followers, you will find a way to do that over and over and over again if you allow it, because you will find March is better than February.
I'm going to start on Monday. That's like probably the most common. I'm going to start on Monday. It's always
Monday's the worst day to start. Yeah, you're not. That's so hard. But it's true. We all go there. But I tell you what, the opportunities that I've had, whether that's working for a company or running a meditation for them, or whatever the case may be, when an opportunity knocks, just answer the fucking door. Just answer it and say yes. Like, say yes and just whatever, because you're going to make it happen. It's terrifying, but like, I don't know if you're anything like me. I'm kind of quite the procrastinator, but for some reason, listen, you made a video about procrastination.
I just did it on Instagram. I was like, hey, does anyone else procrastinate? Tell me what you're procrastinating in. I had everything from grief to marriage to kids. I was thinking it was going to be like, starting my diet, that's like a common one. And it was like work and this and emails and like any possible thing you could see, like everyone was just like dumping everything in there. It's also the way my brain operates though. I actually do really well under pressure. And I had a business coach who explained that. Did I ever give you the diagram?
Please tell me why, because I'll tell you this, every time I wait, like, I should probably do this week because I have 3 weeks till so-and-so. And I'll be like, no, I should probably do it this week because I got 2 weeks, 1 week, and then I got 2 days, and I'm like, oh God. And then I crush it. I crush it. You know, I get everything done perfectly. I smash it out of the park. And I'm just so excited about it. It gives me a high. But I'm like, why do I do that to myself?
Yeah. Okay. So here's the visual. And you guys have to bear with me because I'm going to butcher any technicalities of what this is. But I'm going to summarize in layman terms for the two kinds of people and the two kinds of operation systems. And this comes from, business coaching that I did in the last couple of years. Because I was asking him, I'm like, why do I wait? Why do I wait? And then I come up with the most brilliant idea. I close more business I've ever closed in my life in 3 days. And I'm like, how come I can't just plan that in advance? Why do I go, today's a great day for a sale and launch the craziest sale I've ever launched in my life, right? So the two types of people are this. There's type 1, and they're going to go, I'm trying to use the camera so I'm on screen. They take like the perfect stair steps to get to their destination, right? They have a start, they have a stop. We all have the same start and the same stop. Then that second person does this. We're going to start a little stair step here like this. But all of a sudden we're like tootling around, and then we're way over here, and then we're over here, and then, our deadline is coming. Oh, sorry, wrong way. Our deadline's coming up, right? So we're like Richter scale. Oh, done. I was like, 1,000. And you guys that are in the comments, some of you are cringing at the way that I operate, that apparently the way Joey operates, because you were going, I could never. But that's instantly, I'm like, nope. I'm like tootling over here, a couple of circles, a couple of swirls, and then when the time comes, I'll get it done.
Oh, and my dad always goes to me. He's like, "You're never like, what are you doing? Like, you're never going to get this done." It's moving out of this house and the next house is like, man, how are you going to get this done? And then I call him like, well, you did it again. I'm like, you did it again. I'm like, yeah. I mean, it's everything with me. And, but I don't know. It kind of gives me a high but it also gives me anxiety I don't need.
Yes.
Like, why do I do this to myself?
And so here's some advice for people who are, I'm just for sake of conversation, we're swirlers, right? We just swirl around, we get it done. Find a stair stepper, because I actually pair really well with somebody who does the stairs, because I'm so swirly, right? That it's like having that
you mean
structure.
Okay.
Like whether it's a business partner, whether it is a coach, whether it is a relationship, whatever it is, find someone who takes the stairs, because that'll help you on your path.
Wow. I totally get it. It's so funny. Okay. We're already like 37 minutes in, and we haven't touched on what we wanted to touch on, but I want to jump into that right now.
Let's do it.
There's a lot more to you, Jill, than I think everybody knows. Like a lot of us, there's many layers, but, can I just read the first line from one of your posts that you posted last week?
Yeah, and read the warning part too.
Okay, so
maybe just for anybody who needs
trigger warning, or is there more?
No, just that, just so people know.
Okay, so there is a trigger warning here. So I'll read a little bit here. 12 years ago, my manager slipped a roofie in my drink. So I want you to take over from there instead of me reading your post. Do you mind just kind of touching on that and kind of where that brought you?
Yeah. So, well, I guess my question is kind of where do we want to take this? Where do we want to go? Because I'll talk anything, but.
What do you think is going to bring the most value to people listening?
It's a good question. So I'm going to start with why I posted that, because I'm Joey. I'm like you. I don't like to share a lot of personal stuff. And what I've learned through time is that, especially because I'm online, is like sharing a little bit more dabbles of my personal life and talking about that stuff and that authenticity. It helps build trust and it helps build relationships. And I was like, I kind of want to post this because I had just come back from this trip, and it was like 10 years, 11 years after. And this trip brought up a lot for me after I got home, and I realized like how far I had come. And I was like, I kind of want to share this story because I have come so far. I've come so far. And, was a lot of ups and a lot of downs. And I just was like, I feel like people need to know this. People need to hear this. And because I feel like I've healed, and I'm going to use the language, not I'm healing, I have healed from this. Mm-hmm. I can talk about it. I'm not triggered by it. I'm not. And if this can help somebody, then I want them to know, 8 months after that, I met some random guy in Vegas who was like, hey, do you want to go to Cabo? And I'm like, yeah, And I was like, I need to know I can trust my intuition. I know that I need to know that, I can trust men. And it felt right. So we talked about like starting a business, whatever, you just go into your deeper self, and I go on this random trip. I meet some incredible people that I'm still friends with to this day.
So just so we're clear, I don't want to cut you off, but so 8 months after, so 8 months after what, just to explain to them, like that incident, do you want to touch a little bit on that? Like what kind of happened?
Yeah. I mean, so we can go back into that. So my manager put a roofie in my drink, right? That happened. I don't need to go to details. And if you guys want to read like a little bit more, it'll be clear. I think I tried to talk about it where it's like, we don't need to know details. Everyone can fill in the blank and they're going to be right, and right after that, I put myself in therapy. I had never been to therapy in my life. I put myself in therapy because I was like, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. And I don't want this to affect my life in a negative way. I don't want this to affect my relationships, whether it be with my friends and family or future, romantic relationships. And I'll be quite honest, I actually thought about this earlier. That therapist should not have taken me on as a client. But the universe was looking out for me. This was just like a normal marriage family therapist. And I really think anybody going through any sort of trauma, you need to see somebody who specializes in trauma. I cannot reiterate that enough. Fortunately, the universe knew that I was trying to do the right thing. So she went out on maternity leave and I had to see someone else. So that was, chips falling in place when you do the right thing. And I ended up seeing a trauma therapist, ended up seeing a psychiatrist, went on medication for about 6 months, antidepressants, anti-anxiety, knowing I didn't want to be on it forever. Best thing I ever did at that time. And was dancing at Cal State Long Beach. I think movement saved my life at that time. The last thing you want to do when you've been in that situation where you feel vulnerable and exposed and everybody's looking at you is show up and in a leotard and tights. You can see my whole body. I can't hide. And we had live musicians in class. And so besides moving my body, we have live musicians. I can't tell you how many times I like almost just started bawling in class because I felt like I was healing myself. And movement is definitely a huge staple in my life. And at that time there was a lot, there was a lot of hard things. I had, if you want to get real specific, there was some lies in the police report. I mean, I went that route and whatever, just because I was like, I don't want this to happen to someone else. I didn't do it for me. I was like, I'll figure out how to get past this. But if this person can do this thing, and I had heard unfortunately, other stories with these same people at this same company who were doing similar types of, hey, we're putting drinks, things in the drink. I was like, for the person who's not comfortable standing up for themselves, I'm doing it for them, and so it was a lot of that. My family at the time, and I'm a millennial. We grew up in a generation. I don't, fault my parents for this, but where they didn't believe in therapy. They're like, oh, you're going to see a shrink, and it's like, yeah, I am. And I don't know what it's going to be like, but I think I'm supposed to do it. So, did the hard work, did all the stuff that, I thought was required to kind of try to move past it. And I mean, that doesn't mean it just was okay overnight. There was a lot of things I would randomly have. Something would trigger me and I'd have like a massive breakdown. But it was a pretty intense thing. And when I came back then from this trip more recently, I was like, wow, like I didn't realize I was going to reflect so much of where I was before, because that original trip was that intuition, that higher self saying, hey, you got to do this for you. And this is right. And you're going to be safe and you're going to be okay, and then keeping in contact with some of the people that I met then, and kind of out of the blue got a message that was like, hey, we're going back to Cabo. This is how this second trip started. We're going back to Cabo. We promised you a 10-year anniversary. We're holding true to our word. Haven't seen this couple in 11 years. I'm like, sweet, I'll meet you there, because they live in the Midwest. I live in California. They live in the Midwest. And so it was a really, really big thing. When I came home, I did a lot of reflecting of where I was at, how far I've come, and was like, I got to share this. Something's urging me to share this story. And we talked about this yesterday. I was like, do I post it? Do I not post it? You're doing that thing. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I see a post that's like, Happy International Women's Day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you couldn't give me a more obvious sign. Like, oh my God. Like,
post.
Send. Yeah.
Yeah. And that moment of power and, speaking your truth and using your voice, because you're going to reach, even if it's just one person, right? We talked about that yesterday. Goosebumps. Yeah. Like, and you had a few DMs that really hit you hard, right?
So what happened was, besides the like, okay, I want to share the story, I really wanted to try to make it as a way of celebration. Like, I am celebrating something. I'm not a victim. I'm not poor me. Yeah. The last thing I wanted was to have a bunch of people be like, oh my gosh, this person. I got a little bit of that, but I really want it to be about a celebration. And I heard several stories that were not even related to like online comments, whatever. One of them was someone jumped into my DMs and a woman said, this happened to me 8 months ago. And, she's probably, I'm guessing mid-30s or so, something like that. And I said, here is my personal cell phone, day or night, call me, because no one's going to fully understand what you're going through except for someone who's been through it. People just they're not going to understand. I said, here's my number, whatever you need. Like, I also said, I sleep with my phone on silent, so you're not going to wake me up. But anytime, I was like, I mean, I have boundaries, but seriously, like, reach out. Anytime you need to reach out, here's my personal cell phone. And then I got another story from a really good friend of mine. She said an old mutual friend from high school had reached out and said, hey, that story that Jill posted, wow, she's really been through something. And my friend goes, which story? She's been through a lot. Like, this is just, she's trying to think of, like, even in the last 2 years, like, what story is she talking about, And he tells her, it's a gentleman, he tells her, and he said, it really gave me some perspective on my life. And I've been through some stuff, and to see that she's been able to go and follow through and, buy a business and be a business owner and do life and live life and enjoy life. He was like, man, that like really just like in a good way. Like it really just kind of shook me and was like, man, you got to get your ish together, like you got to do something about this. And so that was kind of cool to hear too, because it's like you have the reach of the initial people, and then you have the possibility that someone goes, hey, I'm going to share this with my sister's friend because she just went through this. I just want to let you know, like, and it's just kind of connecting it. And I told you this yesterday, and I really, truly mean this. And is if this story can help one person know that things are going to get better. I mean, where I'm at now, especially, like, I'll tell the story every day,
all day. And, you see a lot of different stuff online that some people are, you see some entrepreneur videos. Nobody cares what you feel. Nobody cares about your story. Keep going. Do this, do that, do this. And it's like, okay, I get where you're coming from, but I'm going to tell you right now, if I could tell my story and that one kid, maybe he's 18, 19 years old, I've had people message me at the brink of suicide, telling me a video I made them keep going life for one more day. Like, that's not a joke. Like, I don't take that lightly. Those are moments I'll cherish for the rest of my life. Going, holy shit, my words, my experience, my hardship, but my perseverance is helping someone live. Like, keep going. Like, that's unbelievable. So I made a few videos of those on my TikTok account, my old one. You might not find me anymore, but but it's about sharing your story. You don't have to do it all in the same way. You don't have to go on social media and make a video of it, but you might write about it. You might just reach out to someone who's hurting and just explain, like, I've been there, I've done this, and that's happened to me. And you don't know how important it is for you to share those things sometimes, and how much it can change someone's life or some whole family, if not more.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think that's definitely, especially too, when you're on the other end of it, it's like, now I want to celebrate, part of it was I want to celebrate for me. And the other part of it, I want this to be out there for someone who needs it. Yeah.
And I think too many people get caught up on having to be a big influencer or have a ton of followers to have to do this. But I think something like TikTok has shown us that we don't have to be a celebrity. We don't have to be any of these people to share a story. Anybody can have a platform now. And if your heart's in the right place, you're going to share that, and that's going to gain momentum. That's going to hit the right people. Call it the algorithm. It's bigger than that. It's energy. It's not an algorithm.
TikTok is that is spiritual.
Right. It's his own soul.
Algorithm. Yeah.
So I always try to encourage people, you might not be feeling like it now when you're in the thick of it. Maybe you're going through the hardest time of your life, but there's going to be a time where you're going to come out of it. As long as you keep going, you're going to come out of it. And what you went through is going to help someone so much that you can't wrap your head around it. You can't see it yet. And I think that's why I said, like, you and I have been talking since I launched this, actually like months before I even launched my first episode. Like, Jill, you're going to come on. I want you to come on my show.
Yeah. You're like, I'm going to start a podcast. I was like, oh, cool. And you're like, yeah, you're going to be on it. I was like, oh, even better. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go. And dates didn't work. That kind of fell apart. And it made total sense because you made that post only a few weeks ago. And it had to be after you made that post, because it's you really being, stepping into even more of who you are and what you've been through to help even more people. Cause it takes guts to do that, to talk, even though you're not triggered like you were, it takes tremendous amount of courage.
Also too, it's like none of my clients knew. Most of my employees didn't know, and I was like, it's like, there's instances in life when I'll ask a friend, I'm like, do you really want to know? Because once I tell you, I can't untell you, And there's been several instances in people's lives, and I try to look out for them. I can't untell this story when my clients see that this is something that they now know forever, and so it also, it makes you feel vulnerable too, and I didn't share it, to try to be vulnerable or overshare or whatever, but yeah, it's definitely a very, it's like, oh, I'm healed, I'm good, I feel good. And then you like, okay, we're going to post this. And then it's like, now I'm standing there naked. It's like, wait a second. I was really good. I was feeling good about this, Yeah. Where did all my clothes go?
Yeah. No, for sure. Talk a little bit about you coming to me and how we connected and some of that. Like, I don't need you to obviously get into the details of our work. That's not what we need to, but I'd like to know why you came to me. What was the pull there?
So we got the long story in 8 minutes. Okay, so
we can extend it a little bit.
Okay, so Jill's on a good one. Business changed overnight. Entrepreneur, trying to figure out, the whole pandemic, whatever. Definitely on an interesting journey, trying to figure out my life and where I want to be, and just really just evaluating everything. Started researching psilocybin and was like, I want to do this. I want to go find a doctor. I want to consider this for PTSD, anxiety, trauma, stress, like all these things. There's so many good things coming out about all this.
Yeah.
And one day after golf, I had a couple of friends that were like, hey, you want to do it? I'm like, well, I was going to go the medical route, but I feel safe. I feel good.
Yep.
Changed my life. And really opened.
For those who don't know what psilocybin is, most of you do, but that's magic mushrooms. So just in case nobody else.
Yes. And had an experience but what I liked about the research for people who aren't exactly familiar, what happens is, right, if you're on a highway going from A to B, that's kind of like the neural pathways, right, we have in our brain. And excuse my anatomy, physiology, because I'm going to butcher this, but this is how I summarized it and why I wanted to go into it. A to B neural highway. When you have this compound or this, the psilocybin, right, as you say, it opens up your brain. So you can still go from A to B, but now we're on an open highway. And so what, for somebody who experiences anxiety, like I had a lot of anxiety or other things too, is it just allows you to stop and reflect. And like, that's when I had my spiritual awakening, was after that. Everything from losing a diamond in my great grandma's ring that is like the size of a piece of salt and saying, all right, universe, if you're real, let's find this. We found it. To just, really trying to figure everything out. And then TikTok, and then the meditation. And then after that, I think one night I was like, who is this Joey guy? Like, I meditated. That was cool. Who is this guy? So I do some quick research, and I go to the site, and like, something's pulling me to this, and I'm like, hypnotherapy, like, okay, well, I'm in a really cool place, and I'm really new on my spiritual journey. And so why would I want to do this? I don't know. I just need some guidance on my spiritual journey. I didn't know we were going to go back into like generational trauma and like open up some wild cans of stuff, but like, it just felt right. And I remember we jumped on our first call and, you know, you have, is it 30 minutes or your consults?
Yeah. Well, sometimes they go to I think they sometimes go an hour. I think we went over an hour.
No. We were the opposite. Oh, really? I jumped in this call and you're like, okay, what questions do you have? And I'm like, I have none. Like, I'm ready. Like, I just was like, tell me the number. I want to pay you. And you're like, and you know, you're probably vetting to see like, okay, is this going to be a good client or not? But as soon as I was there, I was like, nope, this feels right. You could have said $3 million and I would have figured out how to come up with $3 million that day. I was like,
yeah. And we dove right into it too. I mean, you know, I tell a lot of people, we don't really know what we're getting into.
No. Like, and that's I think that's a good thing.
It is. I tell people, listen, you're going to set your intention to just be open to receive what exactly you need to move into more of you and release what has been causing resistance or causes your anxiety or depression, whatever it is. All of it has a root cause. And that's why I tell people, I'm like, what's it going to be like? I'm like, I have no idea. like I don't have a single client is like the other client. And it's like, oh, we're going to stick into, you know, trauma. Yeah, there'll maybe be some big events we're going to clear up. But then after that, there's always more. And it is a journey that you kind of got to just surrender in, right? I think that's a good word.
Yeah. And I think that was the perfect thing, because when I think about like telling other people about hypnotherapy, of course I'm going to tell them it's an amazing thing. I also, one of the first things I tell them is like, you have to be ready to be open to go some places. Yeah. You really have to be, anybody who's like fearful or whatever, it's like, you really need to be open to it to get, I think, the best experience. Now that's from my personal experience as the client, right? It's, you may have different thoughts on the other end, but it's like, I love it, but you got to be ready.
Yeah. And well, that's just the reality of it is a few things. You got to find the right person that you feel comfortable with. That's number one for me. Like, even if you're saying, oh, I might want to dive into my traumas, that's fine. Yeah. You might not. But if you don't have the right person, whether they have the best credentials or not, they went to the best school, blah, 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 blah. If their energy doesn't match with yours, go find someone that does. Please don't waste your time, because there's resistance right off the hop. And now you probably realize this too, is session to session, things get easier when you find that person, right?
And I think the meditations, like that's actually, something that I kind of had as a prerequisite, is a few of those meditations where I was comfortable with your voice. I was comfortable with, the way you were guiding us. And I think that helped, because I remember one of our first sessions, it was actually hard to get me out. I was so deep on one of our first sessions. Yeah. It took a while to get me out of it,
Yeah. I get that a lot actually in the first ones, is like, I'll have to count them out of hypnosis for like 15 minutes sometimes. I'm like, look, people, like you got to come back here. You went really deep. But yeah, it's one of those things where it is a process. But once you have a feeling for it in that space or in that state of consciousness, and you get an understanding of like, oh, that's what it feels like. That's what it is. This is how it's going to go. Session 2, session 3, you start to let go a little more and let go a little more and let go a little more. And that's why, I moved from session to session to a whole program, because of, you get that momentum. Mm-hmm. And, but you're right. I've told people, look, I don't know if you're ready to do this yet. Like, I could easily say, no, this is what you need. This is what you need. Pay me. But that doesn't work that way. People have to be ready to go into the shit.
Yeah.
Because,
and I think sorry, go ahead, finish your thought.
No, I was just saying, it's, some of this is really heavy, but that's why you're here. We're here to go for it. And the thing is with this work is, we're not here for 6 months. We're here to get it done in 6 weeks. We're here to get this done now. It's already affected you how many years? Let's get to the root of it. Let's rewire it. Let's reframe it. Let's release what we need to release. Allow whatever energy is trapped, whatever emotions trapped, to be fully processed. And then let's step into what we want. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, from the experience side too, it's like, we get into some really heavy stuff, but I remember we had a session where I was laughing. And I came out of that session, I was like, I'm so glad to know that even though we're getting into heavy stuff, I just was laughing hysterically. And I literally was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I'm here for it, but what is this? is, you know?
Well, and that's when you bring the guy, that's when that's a big thing with my work is bringing the guides into the equation and bringing your spirit team to the table is realizing that it's not all going to be heavy and hard and rough, because there are some things we need to clear up and heal there. But this is about expansion. It's about stepping into the new you. If anybody knows who Joe Dispenza is, this is a lot of what we do. We go into the future self. We picture, we feel, we get into the heightened, elevated emotion of being who we truly are capable of being, and we live it in a deeper state of consciousness. We create these, again, neural pathways to this new you. You connect chords to this newer version of you. So it's not all pain and suffering, and not suffering, but pain and going back into these moments to heal them. It's moving into the most expansive part of us.
Into something new. And I think it's, when we talk about the journey and the story, and to kind of tie it all together is, I was at a really good place besides being in the middle of a spiritual awakening. Some of you say, how do you be? No. Okay. Let's talk like past trauma, spiritual awakening. Okay. There's a different kind of, chaos that's happening in your life, but I was at a really good place when I connected with Joey, and I did see that, you specialize in trauma. And I was like, well, anything that's left that's holding me back, I'm ready to let go of it. And that was a really big thing. And we definitely did dive into some of that. And while that wasn't my original intention, it was something that was part of the journey to, to that healing.
And that's absolutely, that's why I say, like, I ask your higher self, like, is there still stuff here? Okay, well, let's not leave it just because, we're in a good place and we want to go here. If there's still a little bit of scattered energy here around that moment, let's just clear it up completely. I don't tell you we go there. I ask. Like, you've noticed that I asked, where do we need to go today? Yeah. And the higher,
it's just, you asked all the right questions, and, it's hard to describe what a session is like, because it's very much the way you're doing it is it's very much guided to like what I need, and what I need, I don't know I need. It's subconscious. It's, it's at such a deep level that you don't know where it's going to go sometimes. And I don't know where it's going to go sometimes. And it's all about having the right guide, and the trust is a big one, is because to be at that level where you're, so deep, is you have to know you trust the person who is, you're like my, tour guide in my subconscious brain. Like, I got to trust that if we see trouble, you're gonna, either help heal it or say, all right, I've got you. We're going here, here, and here.
Right. Right. Yeah. That just brings you back to finding that right person. There's a lot of people that are, different type of healing, or do different modalities of work, but really finding, that's why I have that call, right? We get on the call. Yep. We, like you said, it didn't take you long.
Take my money. I literally was like, here's my checkbook. I'll mail you a check. Like,
but it's important. So I'll tell anybody, whether it's an ayahuasca journey, or it's a shaman you're working with, or it's a Reiki person, look them up, look at their Instagram, see what they're about. Maybe if you get on a free call with them, that's cool. Like, but find that person that pulls you in, because I truly believe there's soul contracts involved on who's going to help you, release this stuff. And you don't have to jump into it. You got to find that right person. Jill, I have a couple questions.
Oh yeah.
These are my final two. You might be aware of them. You might not. First one, and I mean, you've already been super vulnerable, but if you could be a little extra vulnerable tonight, is there something that you would like to share or could share with everyone here that maybe you haven't shared before, or something that you haven't shared much of? Is there something some value you'd like to give from maybe a deeper place?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. You definitely reframed your question, because we were already vulnerable. Don't be afraid to manifest your dreams, your biggest, wildest dreams, and write them down and put them out there and tell people and be open to it. And I think it's like, it was a personal thing, but just kind of having some blocks in my life about moving forward, or feeling like worthy to have, certain types of things, whether that's money, whether that's success, whether that's love, whether that's relationships, is just really just whatever you want and whatever you're dreaming of. It's not too big. Not too big. Make the vision board, put it out there, write it down in perfect description, and send it out into the universe with an open heart, and it will come back. It will come back to you.
I love that.
And do it, dream, and share it with your friends.
Yeah.
Tell somebody about it.
Every time I dream something and something, because most of my stuff has just been it happens and it happens and it happens and it keeps happening, and usually happens bigger than I thought. And it always makes me realize, man, dream even bigger. Why didn't I put this on my board? Why didn't I need to dream bigger than that? Like, that's what we need.
And I saw something, somebody posted recently. I have no idea who it was, but they posted something that was like, stop asking how. Like, how is it going to stop asking the question, how is it going to happen?
It's one of the biggest pieces of resistance when it comes to people manifesting what they want, is they get too hung up on the how and the details. I'm telling you, the universe, God, your guides, whatever you want to use, they have that figured out. You just have to get in alignment with it. You have to believe it. You have to love it. You have to get fired up about it. Yep. Your job is to find joy in life. That's our job as humans, is when we want to create, okay, we put these ideas, we work hard, we do the things we want to do, but it's to find joy, because when you're in the joy, when you're in the fun, when you're laughing, giddy, when you're just having a good time with your friends, or doing, playing football, playing golf, whatever it is that lights you up, you're in the state of least resistance. You're in an acceptance. You're in a receiving mode, as Abraham calls it. You're in that receiving mode. So the more fun you have, the more you allow for that to come into your experience. But the details, let that shit go. And I know it's hard because we're human, and we like, well, that's not how I learned about it. That doesn't make sense. I can't get from here to here. That's resistance. Then you're creating, you're putting roadblocks into what's already supposed to, or is coming to you. So I love that. One more question. What does it mean to be alive to you? Like, being alive, what does that mean?
Ooh, that is spontaneous travel and adventure and following your heart. Once you're like, for me, it's definitely, it's the, when someone asks you something and I say yes. And when people go, you're not really going to do that. And I say, oh yes, I am. Watch me. That's the stuff, it's going to Greece in 2 weeks notice, earlier this year. It's this spontaneous Cabo trip that I took. Something about this trip is going to light me up. I'm just like, I'm so fired up. And they're like, you haven't seen these people in 11 years. Nope. Like, let's go. It's so, to feel alive is to really just to follow your heart on that stuff. Yeah. Whether for me, that's travel, maybe for someone else, that's, I don't know what it is, but just for me, it's that. It's definitely the adventures in life where I just get so fired up and I know I'm supposed to be there, and I'm just so elevated at a vibration that is so far beyond anything else. Right. That's what makes me feel alive. Oh, I felt that. How do I keep that vibe? And how do I,
Yeah. How do you, I don't know if you can hold on necessarily, but it's for me, it's like, how do I more consistently stay on a higher vibration? How do I just more consistently
do more things that elevate your vibration?
do more things you love. And it's crazy because a lot of us have this programming conditioning, like, oh, that's selfish, or I can't do that again. I already did this once this week. Whatever, you have this conditioning from our parents and society. But man, I'm telling you, if you get into that flow and you just do more stuff that you love, the work's going to be easier. The opportunities come faster. All these things just kind of flow into your experience because you chose what made you happy.
And I think that's exactly it. It's like, for some people, if you're like newer on your journey, you actually have to kind of stop and reflect and go, how do I feel about this opportunity? I'm at a phase in my life where I just know it's a yes, or it's probably a no. It's like, I know instantly and I know immediately. But it's like,
Yeah. See, I'm like that too. I think that has a lot to do with my human design. Do you know much about your human design?
No, but I need to look it up. So
I think you do. So I'm thinking you're a generator. Some people, I don't know, but like, I'm a sacral authority. Like, I'm a yes, no. Like, does this feel right? Boom. I know it's a yes. And if it's not, I'm like,
Well, I'm definitely a feeler when we talk about personality, feeler versus thinker. I definitely pick versus feeling. If you guys know about it, I'd be curious. Drop it down in the comments. Like, let us know. Like, what do you think I am?
So Brenda, you'd be a perfect person. Like, Brenda's laughing right now because she's just laughing at me because she does that. But I don't know if we know, but like, I'm guessing you'd be a generator. But she's probably like, oh, Joey, you should know this by now, but I don't. So I just learned about that not too long ago. I don't know enough about it, but I know like my sacral authority, like that's my gut. Okay. That's my gut instinct. That's my, in the situation, yes or no, I know. It's like, if I think, then I get in the way, but I know it's a strong yes in my sacral. So yeah, check it out. I think it's something you could, I don't know, probably just elevate your experience even more, knowing a little bit more about your human design. But
oh yeah, love it.
Jill, thank you.
Yes. You are so welcome. And I hope, anybody who watches this, whether there's people live or watching it later, that you guys get something from this. And if anybody has questions, or if you need somebody to reach out about a similar experience or a journey or whatever, like, please feel free to reach out. I think that, one of the biggest things Joey said when he asked me to come on tonight is I just want to help, if getting these stories out, if talking about this stuff is helpful for someone, like, please, like, reach out.
Yeah.
I'm here.
So where can everybody find you on social?
At HB Pilates. So HB as in boy, Pilates, Pilates. Pretty consistent across all the boards.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's it. I think, actually, I want to read something Lil Wolf wrote. I'll put it up here. She wrote, I'm in the mindset that I can't do the things that bring me joy because I haven't done my chores. I can't do my chores because I'm depressed and unmotivated and sad, and that I can't do anything that brings me joy. That's a cycle. I've been there. What would you say? Like, what do you, for me, when I was in that cycle, I know it was like, when I'm in that, it's almost like, I don't care what anybody says. Like, I remember being there, but sometimes it just takes you having to switch something, do something different that you're not doing, or bring something back into your life that you haven't done in a long time that can bring a little bit of a spark.
So I've been there in the last couple of years. I had some really just dark, very lonely, isolated places. And it's like, you got to keep trying stuff until you find something that works. So for me, that is sunset walks on the beach. I'm blessed to live 7 minutes away from the beach. Yeah. And it's like going and doing whatever that thing is. Maybe it doesn't require a drive. Maybe it's grounding outside. Maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's a workout. Maybe it's art or drawing or creativity. And integrating that into your life regularly, whatever that little thing is, because then when you come home, you're going to be like, okay, well, I can do some chores now because I just watched the most beautiful sunset in the whole world. I was walking at the beach last night and I walked into like somebody made hearts on the it was like, I'm so aligned right now and everything, but it's because of these little tiny,
little things. Yeah.
And kind of letting go of the guilt that comes with doing something nice for yourself. That's another big one. So like Little Wolf, like that's something I really struggled with. Is like, oh my gosh, if I'm at the beach walking in the sand, like, and I have work at home,
what am I not doing? Yeah. I should be doing this. Yeah.
That's my thought is keep pushing till you find something that sparks, even if it's just a tiny bit of joy, and then integrate that into your life. And even if you don't want to be there, or if you're feeling sad, use that as your crutch. You know what? I'm going to go draw for 10 minutes, you know?
Yeah. I love that. All right. Now we're in 12 minutes. You went past. What the heck? No. It's perfect. Thank you so much.
Talk forever. Yes.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. I just appreciate you so much. Keep doing what you're doing. You're changing so many lives. And I love hearing about your success. I hope you keep just thriving and exploding. And I hope, nothing but greatness and more abundance for you. So just thank you again.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
All right. Everybody else, we'll see you next Wednesday. I have a few things for next Wednesday. I haven't necessarily decided on who's coming on yet, but we'll see you next Wednesday, same time, same place. Thank you guys. Subscribe, like, share, all the good stuff. Love you.